Okay, awesome. Well, man, you said it right off the bat, like how hot it was out there. And I think I said it at the beginning of the stream, but we were trying to get, the technical issues aside. But Jack and Will have seen the season. This was a whole new experience for me. There was a gray period of Survivor that I have never seen. I started watching with South Pacific. So I did see you play the first season of Survivor that I ever watched. And it's kind of full circle now coming back around and watching Tocantins. But it really did look super difficult out there with the weather in particular, mostly because you mentioned the heat, but it also looked like it was just pouring down rain every other day. So I know the elements out there had to make strategizing and everything very difficult. So I don't blame you for going out and kind of being like, man, this thing's kind of kicking my butt more than I thought it would. It looked absolutely miserable out there.
It was tough. I did not know the game of Survivor. I did not watch the game of Survivor. I did not ever set out to be cast on the show of Survivor. I'd been all over the world in some nasty situations, and I was not ready for this. It's like, on one hand, most of the trips that I would take when I was younger, I did not know if I was coming back. Believe what you will, I don't give a shit. But it was really, I was in moments of, will I see the next day, the next hour, the next minute. And so it was different because Survivor, the medics were there. You knew you weren't going to die, really. So that was kind of the give and take. But on the other hand, when I'm in the jungles of South America, when I'm in the Amazon, the Orinoco, I have food, I have shelter, I have a change of clothes. So when I get completely, soaked, I can change clothes. So it makes it a lot. There's a big difference. I think you're more miserable on Survivor, but at least for me, the life or death experiences were taken out. So it was a little bit more chill, if you will. But yeah, I was miserable. I mean, it's a painful experience. Going on Survivor, people ask me all the time, what's it like? It's brutal, like it's really painful for your body to go through.
Yeah, I kind of want to go back to the whole Amazon story very briefly, because something I've noticed whenever I watch any of your seasons is you have an amazing way to tell a story. Whether or not we all believe it, it is incredibly entertaining. And we've seen that through scenes of camp life, and also just when it's just you and the producers one-on-one and you're speaking in a confessional. Did you know you had this asset, this skill, and did you think that that would be beneficial going on to Survivor, either the first time or maybe in subsequent seasons, where you're like, hey, I have this ability to really tell a story, and that can either get me screen time on like thinking about it as a TV series, or just help you, build bonds with people or make friends on the island. Like how aware were you of your storytelling?
I'm running the show my whole life. Everything that I've done, I've always been a leader. Everything. Young age. I started having people call me coach when I was at the University of Tennessee because I was coaching all the intramural teams. So I've always liked to be in a leadership position. Being in a leadership position, a lot of times you've got to be vocal. And so, really growing up in a bunch of different countries, I just kind of learned to narrate that story and to narrate my own story to get my point across. I'm not very smart, okay, at all.
Same.
But when I step in front of a group of people, or when I start telling a story, my IQ doubles. And so I never lose my train of thought. I'm very focused. I'm able to connect. I did a TEDx talk and I had like 8 points that were all floating around in the universe, and I just picked them out of the air. And I wouldn't be able to do that if I were just talking one-on-one to somebody. And so I think, like I always tell people, I'm not smart, but I'm very eloquent. And so I think that that's always helped me. I didn't realize the first time. I had no idea, I had no idea what I was doing. All I wanted to do was to take a game that I thought was morally corrupt and turn it into a survival of the fittest. That was my number one goal. And to do it with as much, honor and integrity. I hate to say those words because I use them so much, but to do it, with as much integrity as possible. And so anyway, so I didn't really realize what was going on, but I knew the producers were loving it. And anytime you got a captive audience of just one and they're going, oh yeah. And you watch other people go to confessionals and they come back crying because the producers are like, whips on them and lambasting them and telling them they're not giving them anything and they're sending them away in 15 minutes. And they come to me and they're like, "Coach, you ready?" With a smile on their face. I'm like, "Hey, let's go." 2 hours later, I'm still the golden goose laying down these magical lines that at the time I didn't realize. I guess when I came back and I did the whole King Arthur thing, I focused a little bit too much on that. And I was not at my top form. The last time I came back, I kind of did a little bit less of that and more just tried to play the game.
Well, I mean, I don't think you give yourself enough credit for how good of a player you were, specifically on Tocantins even. And I don't think the community gives you enough credit, because one of the hardest things you can do going into this game is play the game of Survivor with honor and integrity. We see a lot of people try and they go in and say, "I want to play an honest game. I want to go in and never lie to anyone." And then they make it to the end and then everyone's calling them out for, "Well, you lied here, you lied here, you lied here." And say what you want about your game coach. Like, I was a fan watching it, and I'm not just saying that, because it is so difficult to play with that honor and integrity that you keep bringing up. And it is a game where you do have to have some deceitful actions to try to vote people out. But I just didn't see that watching it all play out. You got your tight alliance very early on with Debbie and Tyson. We saw specifically Tyson, and going into that relationship that you had, it seemed like it was really tough to navigate your game moving forward once you lost Tyson, just because you had Debbie still, but it's like, where do we go from here? We go with this Warriors alliance. We ride with JT and Steven. So there's two parts to everything that I just said. And it was a statement of how difficult it is to actually play an honorable game where you don't lie to people. You are straight up with them. You speak from your heart. You say, my word is everything to me. And I keep thinking back to that moment with JT where you're like, "Look, I give you my word. If I hear anything, I'll let you know. You hear anything, you let me know. Let's save each other." But then the flip side of that, how did your game change once you lost Tyson? Because I knew what happened. I knew the results, being a Survivor nerd, but like I said, never seen the season play out. I was still shocked to see Tyson go. I was not expecting that early. So how did your game change once you lost your number one ally, in a sense?
Yeah, I'll get to that in a second. I want to touch back on what you said, just about being a decent player. I don't think the game of Survivor is built for me to win. The last time around, I did the best that I possibly could, start to finish, owned the game, and the bitter jury, Ozzy, and all of his ego-manding bullshit. Yep. So he ruined it. That was the best chance I was ever going to have. But I think a lot of people, and maybe I don't give myself enough credit. You look at somebody like Boston Rob. He's played 4 times. I think he's not made the jury twice. And I came out alpha male, wanted to lead, didn't hide anything, put all my faults out there. And, I made the merge every time. I will tell you that Heroes and Villains, it was really a fluke to go when I did. And I'll tell you right now, Rupert, Tom, Amanda, JT, all of them pregame had seen me at a function, and they were just like, "Coach, honestly, you, me, let's run this thing. Let's play." And so Rupert, all those guys, had I made it to the merge, I think it would have been checkmate as far as beginning to the end. Again, I don't think I can win. So I appreciate you recognizing the gameplay. I've been there for the amount of times I've played. I've gotten, top 5 playing time, I think, as far as number of days. Anyway, so but back to Tyson. I was really naive, really gullible. I had never watched, even the third time on, I had never watched from start to finish. And I have now, and it's given me a good perspective of the game. Put my trust, and I put it out there, and I was unable to change. And you see that kind of all 3 times. I was unable to change. I would not change a thing, because I give my word on something. We're not talking about season 23, but people ask me, should I have taken Edna and Cochran to the end and won $1 million? And the answer is no. To me, who I am, the authenticity is not to be compromised for anyone or anything. And so when Tyson left, I just kept looking at their eyes. And in the real world, I got a big circle. Wherever I've gone, I've got a big circle and a bunch of people that are loyal to me. And I've got to take them at face value. If somebody is disloyal to me,